Welcome to episode 27 of Vampire Survivors like game in Unity, stage progress and enemy stats. We have multiple enemies types in the game, but right now all of them are sharing exactly the same stats between each other. Pumpkinhead and Bat share the same base prefab enemy with stats. What we want to do is to introduce a data container which we or our game designer will be able to easily edit or modify in the course of the development. We will be storing those stats into this enemy data scriptable object. We have 4 enemies, but before we proceed, let's extract enemy stats into separate class. Set the variables public. Set class to be serializable. Good, now we should see enemy stats in the Unity editor. Weird. I forgot to mark instance of the class stats itself as public. Good. Now inside enemy data you can create an instance of the enemy stats, which will make every enemy data container to have stats. Let's move speed into the stats class. For demonstration, let's make Bat move faster, while Pumpkin Dude have more HP. Now when you create instance of the enemy, we want to copy stats from enemy data. In the enemy manager, get the reference to the enemy. Create and call a new method called setStats, which will set the stats of newly created enemy. Inside we will copy stats by using what is called copy constructor. It is constructor where we pass the instance of the same class as a parameter And inside the constructor, copy all the members of the class. Let's test this. You will see difference between fast butts and slower pumpkins. And every other stats is inherited too. Let's change HP values to be more normal. Good. This episode brought to you by generous support of people on Patreon and members on YouTube. If you want to join them, link to my Patreon in the description and join button available right now on YouTube. If you join at $10 or more, you will get access to project files on Patreon. Now we want to make our enemies stronger over time. To do this, we will use something called stage progression. The longer the game goes, the harder enemies should become. And that will be affected by stage progress. Select world object and create another new component called stage progress. We will progress our stage progress based on the time progress of the stage. So we need to cache reference to the time progress. Create progress time rate. This variable will represent the rate of time which will affect the progress of the stage. So for example, every 30 seconds we will advance in the progress by the progress per split, which we will create now. Create progress per split, which represents how much progress is added per progress time, so per split. Now create a property called progress, which calculates the progress of the stage based on the stage time divided by progress time rate, multiplied by progress per split, and add 1. So now we want to apply the progress to enemy stats. To be able to get the stage progress, make the serialized field. And reference stage progress in the editor. So make a new method. To do this for enemy, and inside the enemy colon create a new apply progress for enemy stats. Inside Not every stats we want to modify, we only want to change the HP and damage by the progress of the stage. Now look at this. The first bot which spawn has these stats. The next bot which will spawn will have higher stats. And further you are in the time, the higher stats will be. The higher the time rate, the slower the progression will be. The higher the progress per split, the more stats will be increased per set time. This is it for this episode. Special thank you to each May and the Soul Hashdu. With best regards, see you in the next episode.